Well, Chibi spends a lot of time complaining in this poem, and he doesn't do anything about it. That could be the right answer. B, the past was a beautiful time. Studying history can bring you happiness. Yeah, that could be. The past was a beautiful time. Chibi definitely thinks that's the case. C says people should not drink in excess. Chibi might drink in excess, but there's no evidence of it. He definitely does drink, but we don't know if it's in excess or too much, so I'm going to cross that out. And D says studying history can bring you happiness. Chibi studies history, but it doesn't make him happy. It can't be D. I'm going to go with A. Complaining about something is useless if you don't do anything about it. Perfect. And I also want to point out that this question about theme, I couldn't have answered it unless I read the whole poem carefully. This is an example of if you try to just read a question and then go back without reading the text in the first place, there's no way you can get it right. Number 5, there is enough information in the poem to conclude that A, Chibi will soon make a positive change in his life. There's no evidence. I can already tell you that's not good. B, Chibi teaches a history class. Well, he could. He knows enough about history. C, Chibi overdrinks. I already said that doesn't work. And D, Chibi will never find happiness. Well, look back in the poem. He does sit around. He weeps that he was ever born. He sits around thinking and drinking and saying that it's fate, that he can never change it. But most importantly, it says, he scorned the gold he sought, but sore annoyed was he without. So he's mad that he doesn't have gold. He's also mad, or he's mad that he has to get gold, or that he wants gold. But he's also mad that he doesn't have it. That seems like a pretty good example, a pretty good piece of evidence that he will never be happy. It seems like whatever he wants doesn't make him happy. So I'm going to do B. Oh, I'm sorry, not B. It's D. Chevy never really will really find happiness. It's a good thing that I double-checked before I moved on because I accidentally circled B, and then I figured out it was wrong. Okay, number 6 says, what is most likely the poet's attitude towards Maneuver Chivi? Well, the poet, the person who's telling the poem, is giving the story about Chivi and gives all these examples of why Chivi is not happy. A says the poet pities Chivi. That means the poet feels bad for him. That could be. B says the poet respects Chivi. Definitely not. There's no evidence that he respects Chivi. C, the poet is critical of Chivi. Or D, the poet mourns for Chivi. To mourn means to be sad about somebody's death. Chivi's not dead. Okay, we have pity. Now in the poem, I don't really see any examples of the poet feeling bad for Chivi. He never says poor Chivi or, like shows any kind of sympathy, okay? But here it says the poet is critical of Chivi. Now, looking at this poem, I do see a lot of criticism. The poet focuses on how Chivi just sits and thinks and thinks and thinks. He also focuses on the fact that Chivi drinks. In fact, that's the last line, saying that instead of doing anything about his life, he just takes a drink. I do think that tends towards being critical, so I'm going to circle C. The poet is critical of Chivi. Okay? In other words, the poet criticizes Chivi's actions. Finally, number 7. How does the mood shift in the poem? The mood is how I'm supposed to feel, how the author wants me to feel. Okay? I definitely felt something from the poem, but even if I didn't, I can tell that how the poet wants me to feel. A says from sympathetic to nostalgic and then to melancholy. Okay, I see a little bit of sympathy in this first one because it talks about Chivi. I kind of feel bad for him. He wept that he was ever born. I definitely feel sympathy here. And then, later on in the poem, it is nostalgic because it talks about the past, okay? It talks about how he misses the past, and it makes me feel a little nostalgic. And the last part is melancholy. That means a deep, thoughtful sadness. Yeah, just reading about Chivi here, reading about his sadness kind of gives me a thoughtful sadness too. It makes me wonder, am I like Chivi? Do I sit around pitying myself? It does give a kind of sadness. I'm going to say maybe A is the right answer. B says from resentful to objective and then to indignant. Well, the poem isn't resentful at the beginning because I don't feel like I've been treated unfairly or anything, so I'm going to cross out that one. C says from contemptuous to bittersweet and then disdainful. Contemptuous means that you feel that something is worthless. Yeah, some people could feel that Chivi is worthless. I can go with that, so maybe that's right. And then bittersweet. Later on in the poem, there's a sense of bittersweetness, maybe. And the last one says disdainful. I don't really feel that the last stanza is disdainful, so I'm going to cross that one out. D says from morose to fanciful and then callous. Morose means gloomy. The opening is very gloomy because Chivi is so sad. Fanciful means to use your imagination. Yeah, I have to use my imagination to think of the past. And then finally callous, which means like angry. I'm never angry during this poem, so I'm going to cross out D and circle A.
Stunting the HSA, Mr. Swanson. I'm not going to have time to do all this.
Well, the answer is simple, Becky. The HSA is designed so that you can't succeed on it if you don't read the text very carefully. And if you take the time to stunt on the HSA, you'll be able to answer the questions quicker, and you'll be more likely to get more questions right. So, what you guys are going to do now is you guys are going to practice stunting the HSA with a story, and then you're going to try to answer some questions. When you read the story, make sure you follow the strategy of stunting, just like we did with the poem. It's the same thing. You can underline main ideas and words with a strong connotation. You can summarize each paragraph like we summarized each stanza. So go ahead and start the practice test. And don't forget to stunt the HSA.